The views and opinions of this broadcast do not reflect the views and opinions of Armed Media, New Productions, and its affiliates. Enjoy the show.
Teflon pan man. I'm the Teflon pan man. Ain't nothing gonna stick on me.
Hey everyone, welcome to All You Can Eat. It is the podcast about deliciousness. I'm your host, Rob Rosenthal. I am coming to you live here with episode number 92 of All You Can Eat. Live mid-October. What is it, the 14th, I guess? Coming to you from the eastern end of Long Island in New York, where it is generally quite beautiful, surrounded by an awful lot of farms and farm fields and farm stands. And today happened to have been a gloriously beautiful day, probably mid-60s, sunny blue skies. The point about having... Well, it's a great place to visit when it's time to travel again. If you haven't been out to the eastern end of Long Island, all the way out to Montauk, the end, you're going to want to check it out at some point. Just stunning beaches, and as I said, plenty of good, fresh local fare. And at this time, as we move into fall from summer, it's a time of change in terms of what we cook and what we eat, moving from some of those kind of lighter grilled fish, chicken, vegetables into slightly heartier fare. So like if you float around here, you're starting to see not so much zucchini, but you're starting to see cauliflower and broccoli and squash and pumpkin and that kind of stuff. So it changes the way that what we consume and of course what we can cook. Tonight on the program, let's talk delicious. I want to tell you what's going on here, what it is that I have been eating, what it is that I've been cooking, and then move into a little discussion about what Jacques Pepin, the legendary French chef, has been cooking, because he has just published a new book. And I'll tell you something, even though I did not read the entire book, I've started to see some of the recipes. I've heard some of the reviews. I'm going to tell you about what he is saying about it, and it's fantastic, long story short, because it's about, it's about simple food and simple cooking, which is especially relevant now during the time that we're, spending an awful lot of time, more time, certainly cooking at home. I've got some fantastic recipe ideas for you. You can get yourself a pen and a pencil, a pad if you want. But I'm more inclined to discuss the recipe concept. What are the ingredients? What's the process? What is it that you need to know to put together something exciting, using some of the very ingredients that are most available and fresh and delicious this time of year? So we're going to talk about things like cauliflower and squash and chicken and all that. But I start with some of the stuff that I have myself been doing. For example, today at lunchtime, with the refrigerator generally empty, I mean devoid of a lot of choices, I know that I always have some canned tuna fish in the house. I buy them 6 cans at a time because that's how they sell them at Costco. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Costco, which you will hear me reference from time to time because I am the Costco ho, and I shop there with regularity, and I get great stuff. One of the things they have is kind of like an Italian tuna. It comes packed in I would say, oil. Okay, fine, or water, but more likely oil, which you drain. And the thing about tuna, as I open the can of tuna, I can't help but think of two things. That the rest of my family is repulsed by it, just disgusted by the smell of tuna fish. And it reminds me, and I thought to myself, that's funny. I mean, it reminds me that when I was a kid, my brother and I were completely disgusted by what the can of stuff that my father would open. He opened up regularly a can of sardines. And it wasn't only that they were frightening to look at in a can, sitting there in a little coffin filled with oil, but the smell. You know what I mean? And then his preparation was to make toast and then butter the toast, but his butter was always too cold, and so he would destroy the toast in attempting to put the butter on it, because you can't put like ice cold butter on a piece of toast. And then he would mash in these disgusting looking sardines. Now, I will say that if I would enjoy sardines today, 100 years later. But I was, at that point, just that was disgusting. And that's the way that my people see canned tuna fish. And I will confess that I understand it, and I understand it well, because growing up, my mom was a working mom, but sent me to public school every day with lunch that came either in a brown paper bag or in a Superman lunchbox. I don't recall. Could be either. Could be both. What I recall was that of the very few sandwiches that she put together, none of which were particularly good, because but generally they were predicated on leftovers from the night before, so like shredded pieces of chicken on white bread, because everything was going to be based on Wonder Bread or whatever it was. But the more memorable sandwich, if that's what you would call it, was the tuna fish sandwich that she sent me to school with, because she had to make it, obviously, at 7:30 in the morning before I went off to school and she went off to work. And then lunchtime comes in school, which is 11:30 or 12 o'clock. And she made me a tuna fish sandwich. And her style of tuna fish was to use mayonnaise and then little minced pieces of onion and celery. That went on the untoasted white Wonder Bread in between two slices. And it came, that sandwich, wrapped in, whatever they did it. They didn't have those bags in those days, believe it or not. You wrapped it in some combination of plastic or aluminum or whatever it was. Even the potato chips, had to come in their own special, I don't know if they didn't, I don't remember baggies. I just remember. Anyway, here's what the problem is, that 4 or 5 hours after you make that sandwich, you end up with, in fact, just you open up a lunchbox and it's just all you smell is stench. I mean, it might as well be, cat food in there. And it's warm 4.5 hours later. And it's warm and it smells like cat food. And now the white bread that would have been fine 4 or 5 hours ago has essentially become a sponge. It's just wet, and it's filled with warm, cat food smelling tuna fish. And repulsive is kind. Repulsive is a kind description of that sandwich. It wasn't only disgusting to me; it was disgusting to anybody within a nose of the sandwich. I didn't eat the sandwich. I was thankful that there were potato chips in the bag and either an apple or a banana or whatever else they sent you to school with. Now, that said, somewhere along the way, I hear my mother, it's like 100 years later, my mother says something about relish. Like, that green hamburger, hot dog relish, like in the tuna fish with the mayonnaise. Now, I don't know, I didn't hate tuna fish, I just hated it when it was in a wet sandwich 5 hours after she made it. Put tuna fish sandwich in those days on 2 nice pieces of toast, and it's perfectly fine. Anyway, this is a long way around that I had tuna fish today, and I adore it. I adore it, and I adore it because it's just simply delicious, and it's simple to make, because all you need is a little bit of mayonnaise, and you need a good teaspoon or 2 of that green pickle relish, which brings kind of a bright sweetness to it. And my innovation in this thing is because I don't want to use a ton of mayo. I want to use as little mayo as possible just to bind it. But at the same time, I want moisture, not the kind that she sent me to school with, because now I'm going to have it right now. And I use pickle juice, a teaspoon or two of pickle juice. If you don't have pickle juice, maybe you have in your refrigerator, hot pepper rings, whatever. It's something that has that. Pickle is perfect because that has both kind of a salt element to it. It has a vinegar element to it. It has a sweet element to it, and it's great. So a teaspoon or two of that, a little bit of mayo, the pickled relish mashed up. Damn, that is some serious tuna fish salad. Have it with what you like. It could be on bread. I had mine with beautiful slices of ice cold romaine lettuce. Always a risk to eat romaine. And I will tell you that I think crunch. I'm big on texture. I think crunch is crucial. And if you weren't having bread, which I was not, and you didn't happen to have crackers around, which I did not. What I found for crunch was some pretzels. It could be those. It could be chips, potato chips, great. And that's the point I'm making here. It's like, yeah, I had some crunch because I found some of those hollow pretzel snacks that were just lovely to crunch that with. But I will say that crunch as a texture is not only good in that, but in any kind of a salad. So I made a salad the other day, and it was a simple salad, just a mixed tossed salad. And I always would promote the idea of making your own vinaigrette. It makes no sense, please, ever. Too easy to make your own. To buy, don't buy vinaigrette. It's just easy, right? Just get yourself some vinegar, get yourself some oil, some salt and pepper, maybe a little bit of Dijon mustard, and some garlic or shallot. That's it. Proportion is important to you. Twice as much oil as vinegar, 3 times as much oil as vinegar is the classic kind of variation. Now, you don't love vinegar, so fresh squeezed lemon juice becomes your citric agent. Anyway, in making a salad, I had some ingredients from the Costco, which is a nice kind of lettuce, and I had some whatever I was going to use for protein. It could be anything. It's a little piece of your leftover chicken. Maybe it's some shrimp. Maybe it's some tuna salad. That's fine. Whatever it is, and I like a crunch. And I happen to have had on hand those multicolored kind of Terra chips that are made with potato and taro and sweet potato and yummy. So a handful of those crunched in really makes a difference in a salad. Because we're in the season, even though today was a stunning day, and I had my tuna fish kind of outside in the sun. Yesterday and the day before were kind of cold and breezy and chilly and wet and all that kind of stuff. And I made the oatmeal. Now, I don't make instant. I am prepared to devote the half hour that you need to make a pot of the steel-cut oats. I like the McCann's Irish, but there's other brands that are perfectly good. I always give them a little toast first in the pan, and then put in the water and then the salt. And most of the time, here's what I want to say about oatmeal. Most of the time, you think of oatmeal, especially as a breakfast meal, and you think of it in terms of it being a sweet play. And oatmeal is great with some brown sugar and some cinnamon, and maybe you have some cherries or some cranberries or some dried fruit. It's just lovely and fantastic. And yet, my friends, the thing about oatmeal is that it can easily be converted to a savory dish. By which I mean that rather than using those sweet elements, the sugar or the honey or the raisins or the cinnamon, as my oatmeal is about to take off for its 30 minutes of simmering, I put in some salt. I could use some seasoned salt. I could put in some pepper. I've put in all different kinds of pepper, which is to say, Aleppo pepper or the Korean gochugaru, or maybe your seasoned salt has some pepper in it. And it wouldn't be bad if you put in some some rosemary or oregano. My favorite ingredient actually is dry mustard powder, and I will also put in some olive oil, and you let that cook, and it's beautiful. It's just it's a whole different ball game. If in your refrigerator you happen to have any kind of little pieces of cheese rinds left over from your Parmesan, from your Pecorino, from whatever cheese you happen to have in there, I just take a rind from, that was probably headed to the garbage and put that in the oatmeal. That adds a whole kind of savory element to the, to that oatmeal. And as if that's not enough, and it is, by the way, that oatmeal is fantastic as it is. Just savory and wonderful and warm, and it's kind of got the texture, of risotto. I put an egg on top. I put a sunny side fried egg on top and watch the egg yolk drool, bleed into the savory oatmeal, and that breakfast is fantastic. It is stunningly delicious. It's high power. You will be full for the next 4 hours, and it's healthy. So, oatmeal. And the thing is, people go, savory oatmeal. I hadn't really thought of that. Well, you can think of it, because what is oat? Oat is a grain. What is rice? Same thing. So if you're making, wheat, savory. If you're making rice savory, why not make oat savory? What do? They make cornmeal. What is it? That's a big one too, isn't it? When you do the polenta, corn turned into a savory. So same thing with the oats, savory oatmeal, delicious. Now, moving on to another area completely. Here to tell you about the leeks, and I tell you because one of the things that's growing up around here are leeks, and I saw some the other day that were too stunning to pass by. Probably a foot and a half of leeks, a foot and a half each tall. I mean, just giant, leeks, and they don't have to be. But I mentioned, but I couldn't help it. I grabbed those instantly, and I'll tell you why. Because they are easy to make, few ingredients, and outstanding eating. And they're a revelation, generally speaking, to most everybody. I didn't have a leek for the first 30 or 40 years of my life. I just I'm not sure that I knew what they were, or if they existed, or if I had them. It would have been almost by accident or by surprise. And then I went to French cooking school. And I remember the day that we went in, and one of the dishes we were going to make on that night's menu was the braised leeks, because we were learning braising. Otherwise known, and I remember it from them, I don't know why I should remember this from 1,000 years ago, but poireaux étouffée, braised leeks. And the only part of the leek that is the challenge is the cleaning of it, because it grows out of the ground. And as it grows out of the ground, it kind of sprouts outward. And so some of those leaves, the ones at the top, not at the root end, some of those pick up a little bit of dirt on the way to blossoming before they are harvested, pulled out of the ground. And it's not complicated to do, but if you slice that leek all the way down vertically down the leek, and I saw Pepin do it as well, but I saw he actually went twice. He went vertically one direction, and then he went vertically the other. So he's essentially cutting the leek into fourths lengthwise. And you don't have to cut it all the way down to the root. It doesn't have to break apart, but it fans apart, which allows you, when you cut it that way, it allows you to wash off the top green part of the leek where some dirt can accumulate. And once you've done that, you are ready to braise the leeks, which involves nothing more than cutting off most of the green part, not all of it. In fact, you could probably get away with not having to clean too much dirt off, because by the time you cut off The green part, there's not a whole lot of dirt, but you fan it out. You make sure that there's no dirt in it, because there's nothing that ruins a dish like dirt or sand. It just doesn't taste. It just doesn't feel good in the mouth. It doesn't taste bad. It just doesn't feel good in the mouth. And those leeks, 2, 3, 4, however many, depending on the size, go into a pan, into a saute pan, into a skillet, whatever you want to call it, a frying pan. And braising means that they get covered with liquid up about somewhere between a half and 2/3 of the way up the leek. So the leek is exposed at the top, but 2/3 of the way up that leek, you have liquid. What liquid? Well, it's as simple as water if you want. Not a problem. In fact, actually, I use water. Could you braise the leek with some stock, vegetable stock, some chicken stock? I would say yeah, but you're almost better off just leaving it at water. And the only other ingredient that's going in there is a little bit of fat, by which I mean, a teaspoon or 2 of olive oil or a teaspoon or 2 of butter, and then salt and pepper. Now, a cover goes on, and you put it on a simmer for however many, 20, 30 minutes. You'll see that the liquid will essentially disappear over time. But you want those leeks to be kind of like wavy. I mean, when they're cooked for 20 minutes, they're soft. They're soft in a way that is, it's almost kind of sexy. They're velvety is what they get. And as they've cooked down, they don't need pretty much anything else. You eat them just like that. They've been braised down. They have a little bit of salt, a little bit of freshly cracked pepper, and as I said, a little bit of fat. And you hit them down for like 20 minutes. If you want some more of that liquid to disappear, you simply take the lid off after 20 minutes, put the heat up, but it doesn't have to. Once they've been braised, and you can eat them just like that as a side dish. The French oftentimes will serve them cold as an appetizer with a beautiful vinaigrette. And so leeks. That is the leek advertisement for this evening. And finally, because again it's that season, we picked up a squash. There's so many different types of squash. I am not going to get into it. There are too many. There's the buttercup and there's delicata, and there's like acorn, and then here's where I'm coming in. I went for a spaghetti squash. Now, again, these things are easy to cook. They're not easy to cut. That's some heavy duty thick skin on those things. They're not always easy to cut. They are very easy to cook. So you will have a choice. If you are proficient and strong and you have a good knife, any kind of squash can basically be cut, kind of down the middle, and then you pull out the seeds, you give it some salt, some pepper, some olive oil, you put it in an oven, 425 for, 45 minutes, an hour, generally speaking, and you've got something delicious. Consider also, because I have a recipe which we may get to, which is like a spicy, let me see exactly what they're calling it. It's a spicy butternut squash pasta with spinach, and that's one where you go, why even bother? Because they're selling squash right now, already peeled and cut up for you. So if you want to splurge and not do the work and not take the chance, again, same deal. They're cutting up the squash into bites for you. You're covering them with some olive oil and some salt and pepper, and you're roasting them in a warm to hot oven for 45 minutes or an hour. Great and delicious and soft and sweet. And you could play it either way. You could make it even more savory. You could even bring it. Bring some sweetness to it. But what I like about spaghetti squash is that once you've roasted it, you take your fork, your tines of a fork, as it were, and you scoop out the cooked squash, and it comes out like strands, and that's why they call it, of course, spaghetti squash. And while it would have been fine on its own, I did my turkey meat sauce. I will mention, just because it popped right into my head, I wonder if I have a recipe for that in there. I feel like I do. I made turkey meatballs in my book. I'm not sure if I did turkey meat sauce, so I'll tell you now. The book is Short Order Dad, One Guy's Guide to Making Food Fun and Hassle-Free. Short Order Dad, beautifully reviewed book, by the way, if I must say so myself. And the reason why is because people find it useful. There's nothing more gratifying to me than when someone says, hey, I made your recipes, it's fantastic. They send me a picture, they send me a thanks. Short order dead. Turkey meat sauce, I browned some turkey meat. You don't want to get the 99% lean. A little bit of fat is important. It's not only important for the taste, it's important for the cooking. Anyway, you get yourself the best turkey meat ground that you can, a pound of that, and you brown it. It doesn't need a whole lot of seasoning on its own, because I'm going to put it into my tomato sauce, which, although we've covered before, is simple. It's the second thing that I would tell people: always make your own, and it'll always be better than anything you're going to get in a jar at the supermarket. Right? You can get yourself a can of peeled Italian tomatoes. If you look carefully, perhaps they come from San Marzano, Italy. If not, peeled Italian plum tomatoes in general, I put it in the blender first. You could squeeze them with your hands. You want to get them down. You want to get that texture down. You don't want whole tomatoes cooking. You're gonna ground it, either blend it or grind it with your hands. And you're going to saute some onion and some garlic until you're going to sweat it a little bit until it smells just yummy. And you're going to put in a whole can of your tomatoes and then maybe a half a can's worth of water. And you're going to simmer that with some red pepper flakes, or as they like to say, peperoncino. Sure. Maybe like me, you want a little spiciness to it, so you give it a good hit of the red pepper flakes, right? That's what it just said, spicy. Right. What else? Spicy. Oh, oregano and peperoncino. And I would say also that in the turkey, you can flavor the turkey if you want, remembering that eventually, after you brown it, I'm mixing it in with the tomato sauce, because I want to make a turkey meat sauce. So I did add to the browning turkey some fennel seeds, which is always reminiscent of the flavor that you get when you have like Italian sausage. Anyway, strand out some spaghetti squash, mound it with some turkey meat sauce, and ladies and gentlemen, you have a lovely, delicious, and again, nutritious, healthy dinner. Now, I had promised you a little something about Jacques Pepin, who is, he's an icon. He's an 85-year-old guy who has written, 30 cookbooks. He's been on public television for 35 years. He's a legend. I am blessed to have had the opportunity on more than one occasion to interview him live and in person. And he's charming. And I will say also that after having viewed food television for as many years as I have, and I'm going, 40 years here, there is nobody in the history of television who was a better teacher, a better instructor, a better, chef than this guy. So I see today that he has published a new book, and they promote it with an article, like a legit article, from one of the TV or radio stations he's connected to, and the title is "Tired of Pandemic Cooking, Jacques Pepin Says to Simplify," and he shares his best tips. Now, nothing makes me happier than to hear simplify. And one of the things I respect so much about this guy's cooking, we're talking about a legend, by the way. We're talking about a guy who used to cook for the president of France. 30 cookbooks, 35 years of television. This is an amazing French chef. And yet, the thing that is so glorious about his cuisine is how, at least the stuff that he shows you how to make on television, is how streamlined and how simple and how pure and how clean. Now, this is appealing to anybody, but particularly appealing to me. I wrote an entire book predicated on the idea that you want to get the most taste with the fewest ingredients and the least effort. And that's what this guy does pretty much all the time, every time. So here it says in this little piece about Chef Pepin, food purists take note. A new cookbook says it's okay to use a food processor to make a baguette with no kneading, instant vanilla pudding and a Bavarian cream, and even a bag of mixed frozen vegetables in a vegetable stew. Now, again, all of this stuff is particularly relevant to us now as we spend a lot of time at home, unfortunately at the expense of an entire restaurant industry. But anyway, none other than French food icon, 24-time James Beard Award winner, author, teacher, artist, and chef Jacques Pepin, his new cookbook, quick and simple, Provides not only a vast array of new recipes, but advice on how to make cooking easier. Pepin says in here, he could still, even after writing 30 books, he says he could still write a book with 10,000 chicken recipes alone, which, to be honest with you, I could use. But I have I have two, actually, if we get to it this evening, that I will tell you about. Not his, but chicken recipes, because, I do one a week, at least. Quick and Simple tells readers how to make, for example, a cheese mishmash by putting old pieces of cheese in a food processor with white wine and garlic to put on crackers. Or combine the crumbles of cheese with sunflower seeds, cranberries, and honey and lemon juice for a nice puree. He says, I have 30 recipes I can do with leftover cheese. And I love that. I love that personally because I love working with leftovers, and I don't like waste. I want to see what I can do with the stuff that I have, and that's a treat. He also preaches that it's okay to let someone else do some of your prep by using pre-washed greens and canned or frozen foods, or as I had mentioned before, they've made it way easier at the supermarket. So you can go in and not only buy, canned and frozen, you always could, but now you're seeing, your vegetables and your greens coming to you pre-washed. You're seeing the squash, as an example, coming to you cut up in pieces where that heavy-duty rind is taken off. In general, I support getting the whole ingredient, the whole item, the whole piece, and doing the work yourself. But at times like these, or particularly times that you don't have the time, or you don't have the equipment, or whatever it might be, yeah, sure, go ahead, grab that squash that's already been set up for you to roast. To simplify cooking, shortcuts such as using frozen pie crust can work depending on the recipe. One great canned recipe combines black beans with smoked oysters, garlic, sesame oil, red wine vinegar, and sour cream to make a black bean hummus with smoked oysters. Now, look, I'm not sure even. I bet it would be great. And in fact, I'm going to give you the recipe for it because he gives it to you here in this piece. But the point is that he's using black beans out of a can. In the same way that I regularly use chickpeas out of a can because they're great, and they're sold kind of by the 6 can if you want to buy them that way. Love the chickpeas. I take my chickpeas and use them in a lot of stuff. I drain them and I rinse them. I put them on that little pan that you put in the toaster oven. I give them a squirt of oil. I give them a hit of salt, maybe some pepper. You don't need more than that, but I do. I flavor them. I love my chickpeas roasted in the toaster oven with some smoked paprika, pimenton. I love it with some ancho chili powder. I've also made it with you can make it with herbes de Provence. I've also made it with za'atar. And when you roast them up, you can go like super crisp. I like medium crisp so that they're a little bit, you have a little bit of texture from the outside of it, but the inside they retain that chew. They're certainly good on their own as a snack item. You just popping them into your mouth. Great in a salad, or throw them into a dish that you're making. Pasta with chickpeas. Why not? So there you have that. Shortcuts: frozen pie, black beans. We talked about. In his pantry, Pepin keeps cans of beans, cans of tomatoes, and there it is, sardines and tuna. Wouldn't you know it? For Thanksgiving, he makes a beautiful pumpkin pie with a can of pumpkin, a cup of light cream, Swiss cheese, and a few eggs. Hello? His quick and simple French baguette recipe instructs readers to make the bread using a food processor and a single bowl. 2 or 3 times proofed baguette made overnight will taste better, he says, but this easy recipe also tastes good. Never waste bread, he says. Now, this is going to come in handy because I'm going to lay on to a recipe that he does that I'm not usually surprised, but sometimes you look at something and you go, you know what? Holy wow, that is something. Never waste bread. Run leftover bread. This is true. You had half a baguette. You bought a baguette. You only used half of it, and then half of it is sitting there getting stale for a couple of days. Run leftover bread under water and put it in the oven for 10 minutes to bring back its crunch. or use it to make breadcrumbs or even to make croutons. During the few minutes it takes for your oven to reach 425, Pepin suggests preparing an Irish soda bread with flour, salt, water, and baking powder. Your oven is not even at 425. Your bread is ready to go in the oven. It's very good, he says. And why not throw in a handful of raisins that you've already soaked in, water or rum? When the late Julia Child, a friend of Pepin, lived in New England, Here and Now host Robin Young expected a grand meal when filming a segment with Child. But instead, Child pulled out a little bottle of mayonnaise and made tuna sandwiches. And I know what that's like, but here the punchline is, don't make your own mayonnaise, Child warned, because Hellman's is the best. On the other hand, Julia's recipe for baguette was 12 pages, Pepin says, so sometimes you do it one way, sometimes you can do it another. But with cooking, what matters is sharing a meal and conversation with family. Pepin's been married for 54 years, sits down every night to share a meal and a bottle of wine or two with his wife. Chicken, string beans, cheese, and a salad comprised a recent dinner in their home. I can relate. A few days ago, Pepin says his wife called to tell him a friend was coming for lunch from the market. He goes and he bought, this is surprising to me because I roast the chicken every week. Pepin goes to the market, but again, this is lunch, right? It's totally different if it were going to be for dinner, but this is for lunch. From the market, he brought a rotisserie chicken and a big head of lettuce. He sautés some onion and garlic in a skillet, sprinkles it on top of the cut-up chicken with some lemon juice, and put it on top of the salad. You know it's going to be good, because everything this guy makes is good. Since the COVID-19 pandemic began in March, Pepin has posted 163-minute simple recipes on Facebook to show people how to use leftovers and what's in their freezer or pantry. And for someone who's never cooked, if you do something very easy like this, it brings them into cooking to become more confident, and they do it more. Many people consider him the quintessential French chef, he says, but this book contains recipes such as black bean soup with banana and cilantro, southern fried chicken, and New England clam chowder. He says, after 60 years in America, I'm probably the quintessential American chef. With scallops, Pepin says to poach them in 2 tablespoons of water and don't turn them too early. He also cooks other fish such as salmon this way in a cold skillet on full heat with skin side down, salt and pepper, and a lid on top for 5 to 6 minutes. It's a simple way of cooking, and that's what you have to tell people. So that's what I'm going to tell you. I also made fresh scallops last week. Now, truth be told, if I can get my hands on fresh scallops, I prefer to have them raw, like a la sushi. And I take a little bit of soy sauce and dip it in that, or even better, honestly, just a squeeze of lemon and some, coarse salt, and a little bit of olive oil, and raw scallops, and that's amazing. But I did actually, because my wife prefers it cooked, do exactly this method, not even knowing that it was his method. I took some scallops. I didn't actually do this, Timmy. I take it back. I put a little oil in the pan. And the key with the scallops is that you make sure that they're very dry. And you season them with salt and pepper. And you put a scallop into a hot skillet with some oil until one side gets a beautiful light brown color. And that's going to take on a hot skillet, 2 minutes. And then you flip it over to the other side, probably for less than 2 minutes, but let's even argue that it's a minute and a half. And then you've given the other side a good sear. And, for like the last 30 seconds, I just squeeze in, some fresh squeezed lemon juice. Call it a day. It is just fantastic because scallops, when they are fresh like that, are a delight. They are the essence of the sea in a very non-fishy way, and they're sweet and yummy. Jacques Pepin, pears in puff pastry, black bean hummus with smoked oysters and sour cream. All right, look, I had promised this one. That is a plane flying overhead. Yes, that is what you hear. Interesting variation on traditional Middle Eastern chickpea hummus inspired by black bean puree found in Mexico, served with sour cream and oysters. It makes an exciting dish. It uses canned black beans, but of course you can cook your own. This is good, made also with red kidney or other types of beans. I suggest serving it as a first course, but it can also be served as a dip with corn chips or Melba or other toast. You ready for this? 1 16-ounce can of black beans, 3 cloves of garlic, and again, if you want the recipe, get in touch with me. shortorterdad@gmail.com. Send me a note or get me on Twitter, shortorterdad, or get me on Instagram, Real Rob Rosenthal, and go, hey, that recipe on that black bean pan thing, that black bean hummus with smoked oysters and sour cream. A can of black beans, you're going to need half a cup of oil, some 3 cloves of garlic, some sesame oil, some red wine vinegar, a tablespoon of each, and a teaspoon of Tabasco, because a little bit of spice, some salt, freshly chopped cilantro, some sour cream, a couple of cans of smoked oysters, and, toast triangles or Melba toast. Drain the beans, put them in a food processor with the garlic, process until the garlic is finely chopped, the mixture is smooth. Add in your oil, put in your vinegar, some Tabasco, salt, process 5-10 seconds to blend, transfer it to a serving bowl. At which point you're going to stir in some chopped cilantro, you're going to cover and refrigerate, and then at serving time, spoon about a half a cup of the hummus onto each of 6 plates, spread it out in the middle of the plate, pour a generous spoonful of sour cream in the center and top it with cilantro leaves, and then arrange the oysters around the hummus, dividing them evenly. Serve the toast alongside. Good. Happy. Why not? I'm going to give you, I feel like, because we're on Pepin, I'm just going to jump to a dessert recipe for those of you who make that. And again, this is so appealing to me because there's like 2 steps and there's like 4 ingredients. This is just crazy. Raspberry gratin, and this is what I was saying before. So I can't believe this guy does this because it's amazing to me. Tasty dessert can be made with fresh berries or frozen. And he always keeps a couple of packages of unsweetened berries in his freezer. You're going to serve this gratin warm with some creme fraiche or some sour cream. I don't see why a scoop of vanilla ice cream would be bad. Check this out. 1 16-ounce bag of unsweetened raspberries or a pint of fresh if you got them. Yes, you can use other fruits, sure. Now, here's the part that made me laugh. 3 croissant or Danish pastries or leftover cake cut into half-inch pieces until you got 2 cups worth. So here's a guy telling you, whatever you do, don't throw away kind of, anything, especially like bread stuff. But you got too many croissant in the house, or you have croissant, or you have some Danish in the house, or you have some leftover, pound cake or apple cake or some other kind of cake, and it's going stale. You cut up 2 cups worth of it. Then all you need is 3 tablespoons of unsalted butter that you melt. You're going to take a half a cup of packed brown sugar, light brown sugar, and that's all you need to make this thing, except that on the side, like I said, maybe there's some sour cream or some creme fraiche or some ice cream. Preheat the oven to 375. Put the berries in a 5-cup gratin dish. Place the pastry pieces in the bowl. Add the melted butter and the brown sugar. Mix it all up well. Sprinkle it on top of the berries. Bake for 25 minutes until the gratin is nicely browned on top. Serve warm. Right? So, berries are sitting in the dish. And then separately, you got your pastry pieces that are chopped up. And you're adding melted butter and brown sugar to them that you put on top of the berries. And then it bakes for 25 minutes in a 375-degree oven. And you have beautiful dessert. Love that. Love that, Jacques Pepin. Fantastic. I mentioned cauliflower. Again, my thing about recipes is if I see too many ingredients, my eyes start to close. And also, as I share them with you, I want you to think about them in terms of, wow, that sounds good. Rather than getting heavily into the specificity of half a cup, half a teaspoon, and you're sitting there. You know what I mean? I'm happy to send you the recipe, give you the recipe, reach out to me on the Instagram, on the Twitter, or on the Gmail. And I'll tell you what you want, but this is roasted cauliflower with pancetta, that's Italian bacon, olives, and crisp Parmesan. Now, if I saw that on a menu, I'd go, I'll take that, whether it's a main or a side. Studded with salty olives, pancetta, and Parmesan that gets golden and crisp at the edges. This is roasted cauliflower at its brightest and most full-flavored. Serve it with you can serve the caramelized florets either as a vegetable-based main dish or a hearty side dish to roasted meats or fish or big bowls of pasta. Recipe calls for using a package of finely diced pancetta that practically melts into the sauce. And again, you can now buy in your supermarket a package of finely diced pancetta, or if you prefer, a chunkier version, dice it yourself into half-inch cubes and add them with the cauliflower. Or you go, wait a second, I'm a vegetarian, take the pancetta out. Let's see, how many steps? 4 steps, and you're going to need cauliflower, a whole bunch of extra virgin olive oil. There's going to be salt, a half a cup of olives that have been crushed and pitted and chopped. You want a big fat garlic clove, fresh squeezed lemon juice, and some red pepper flakes, your pancetta, cumin or caraway seeds, and a cup of shredded Parmesan, maybe some parsley or mint, for when it comes time to serve. And if you don't happen to have cumin or you don't want to do caraway seeds, I'm pretty sure that you can also just, find another flavor, maybe that you want to do this with. Heat the oven. Whisk together olives, garlic, lemon juice, and red pepper flakes with some salt and a quarter of a cup of olive oil. That becomes your kind of dressing. You're roasting that cauliflower in an oven, 425 with the oil and with some salt. You're roasting it for 15, 20 minutes, and then after it's roasted 15, 20 minutes, you put in the pancetta and the cumin seeds, and you mix it all up. You put the Parmesan on. And you roast for another 15 minutes, and then everything is golden and crunchy and beautiful. And then you take that dressing, and you put it all over the cauliflower while it's still hot, and you toss it all. And as always, you've tasted along the way, so you go, maybe it needs some more salt, maybe a little more red pepper flake, maybe a squeeze of lemon juice at the very end, and then you go, hey, I'll put some parsley or some mint on that. I don't know about you. Sounds good to me. Here's another concept. Without meat, spicy squash pasta with spinach. So again, concept without going through the whole recipe. Buy yourself some squash, roast it up. Butternut is good. Buy yourself some spinach, and grate some Parmesan cheese, and mix all this up together. Right? I mean, I this one actually I do have. This is the one I was thinking about. If you get the book Short of Dead, I do a recipe. I think I kind of adapted it from something that I had seen somebody do, where it was butternut squash and pasta. And I'll tell you something, man. It's just fantastic. Black pepper is good with that. She throws in a handful of spinach here at the very end. Red pepper flakes to give it a little bit of heat. Olive oil is fine. The grated Parmesan cheese. I'm making myself hungry. Two chicken recipes, and one of them is exciting to me because it's kind of like a sheet pan thing. Where you do everything kind of on a pan that you roast into the oven. So here you go. Roast a chicken with potatoes, cherry tomatoes, and herbs. Again, if you're a chicken person, and you're looking for a different way of bringing some excitement to your chicken, potatoes, cherry tomatoes, and herbs on one on a sheet pan that goes into an oven. So everything is kind of cooked together. You use only one pan. And it's great and lovely. Let's see, 3 steps. No, there's a 4th step. Discard basil sprigs. You're going to need a chicken cut up, or you can use, as I would like to, your bone in, your skin on chicken thighs. You need some, 4 tablespoons of olive oil. You like rosemary? Let's get some of that. Maybe a sprig or two or a teaspoon's worth. Salt and pepper. Again, dried red chilies or red pepper flakes to give a little bit of spice. 2 to 3 pounds of the large Yukon Gold potatoes that you have quartered. 12 ounces of those cherry or grape tomatoes that you see everywhere. 1 large yellow onion that you've quartered and thickly sliced. And then you need a quarter cup of dry white wine. Maybe you got some basil in the house. So in a bowl, chicken, olive oil, rosemary, salt, pepper, some chilies. Let it sit around room temperature for 30 minutes, right? Or 8 hours in the fridge if you want, as that kind of gets flavored. Oven's at 450. You don't have to use the sheet pan. I see here she's using a 9x3 baking dish or an oven-proof skillet that has a lid. Olive oil goes in there, rosemary, potatoes, tomatoes, onion, and salt and pepper, right? Olive oil, rosemary, potatoes, tomatoes, onions, a generous sprinkling of salt and pepper. Toss and spread evenly in the pan. Arrange the chicken pieces on top of that, skin side up. Add a little bit of the wine, right? Quarter of a cup of wine is all you need. Pouring it around the edges of the pan. Place basil sprigs on top. Cover tightly. Bake it for 30 minutes, right? So now your chicken's cooked. Remove the chicken from the oven and turn the oven temperature, but now we want, it's not totally cooked. We want to do a little bit more to it. Right? Now that you've cooked for 30 minutes in there, essentially it was kind of in an oven, but it was kind of steaming, right? Because you had it in a pan that was covered with liquid, white wine. Remove the chicken from the oven. Put the oven up to 475. Now this is hot, or if you have like a convection feature on your oven, put that on because we're looking for a heat blast, right? Or put the broiler on and put the oven rack like 8 inches away from the heat, and then return that pan with the chicken and everything in it uncovered to the oven and cook it until the chicken skin is browned, right? Cooking is brown. The cooking liquid is now reduced and the vegetables are very soft, so you're looking 10 to 15 minutes, right? So there you have it. And then you're taking away the sprigs of basil because you don't want to eat a sprig or a branch. And you garnish with maybe some shredded basil. You serve it immediately, and you have a delicious, chicken dish loaded with flavor. And there's 1,000 variations on that. But the concept is to take your chicken or your thighs and roast them. First, you're kind of baking them, they say, but you're really kind of steaming them in there with flavor, and then Then you start to blast the heat to get it all crispy, and everything gets served together. Potatoes, tomatoes, herbs, and beautiful chicken. And now I'm actually, super hungry. So, let us, I got to say, I got one more thing. It's called huli huli chicken, and it's adapted. It's like from a Hawaiian recipe. And all I can tell you is, because like I said, I make a ton of chicken. I'm always looking for a new way. Chicken with vinegar is a thing, and it's a good thing. Like red wine vinegar, pepper, garlic, onion, that kind of stuff, all roasted, terrific. But this recipe, huli huli, was exciting to me because it uses fresh ginger and garlic, right? And it uses my favorite pieces of chicken, which is your kind of bone-on, skin-in, chicken thighs or pieces, whatever. But here's what I get excited about. I got garlic and I got ginger, right? And I've got vinegar and brown sugar. So anytime you see that combination of the vinegar, right, which is going to be, a little sour, and then you see the like a vinegar, apple cider or rice wine vinegar, and you see and then you see the vinegar, which is sour, and then you see the light or brown, dark sugar, which is the sweet. That combination is exciting. This also includes soy sauce and ketchup. So think about this. You got some ketchup and some soy, you got some sugar, and you got some vinegar, and you got some fresh ginger and some garlic. And that's all I need to know. That would be good on anything in the world. That is huli huli chicken, Hawaiian style. You soak it in a big old bag for as long as you can, refrigerate it overnight, and that can get made on the grill. It can be done in the oven, or you can find any one of a number of different ways to do that. Huli huli chicken from me to you. Okay, so to review, my friends, a lot of good stuff going on down there. That time of year that we should be purchasing some of the seasonal vegetables that are coming up from the ground right now. cooking style. We're going to be doing some braising. We're going to be doing some roasting in the oven still, and flavors. Lots of flavors. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. As I do in the book, Short Order Dad, One Guy's Guide to Making Food Fun and Hassle-Free. And as I said, if you want to find me, because you go, hey, I got a question, or hey, what was that recipe? Instagram, Real Rob Rosenthal. Twitter, Short Order Dad. And that's the easiest. If you want to even email me, go ahead. I'm shortorderdad@gmail.com. I'm Robert Rosenthal. I come to you each week here on Armed Radio. And then by this time tomorrow, you can find All You Can Eat, an archive of now 92 one-hour programs on iHeartRadio and Spotify, the world's two largest podcast platforms. Until next time, my friends, what I would always remind you is that life is short. So never waste a meal.
The 22-year-old virgin is in the house.
I'm the Teflon Pan Man. I'm the Teflon Pan Man. Ain't nothing gonna stick on